What do you think of when you think of Toyota? You probably think of hybrids like the Prius, maybe trucks like the Tacoma, maybe even affordable sedans and hatchbacks like the Corolla and Camry. Do you usually think of sports cars? Probably not, but that is exactly what we have here. This is a 2023 Toyota GR Corolla. GR stands for Gazoo Racing, Toyota's global racing arm, and it has gotten its hands on the practical Corolla hatchback to turn it into something a little bit more special. This car has a motorsports-derived 3-cylinder engine with 300 horsepower. There's really nothing like this on sale today, and today we're going to talk about it. This is a 2023 Toyota GR Corolla, but Toyota has already announced changes that are coming for the 2024 model year, so we will go over that in this video, talk about whether or not those changes are worth upgrading or worth waiting for, and discuss why this is one of the most special cars that money can buy today. Let's dive in. So let's start with an exterior walk around of the GR Corolla. And as I mentioned, this is a 2023 model, so there are going to be some changes compared to the 2024 that we will talk about, including the color, which is no longer available on this trim level. Again, we will talk about it. Straight away, you can tell that this is not your normal Corolla hatchback. You've got these wider fenders, you've got this deeper front end with this larger GR grille. It definitely looks like an aggressive hot hatchback for sure. The one that we have here is the Circuit Edition, which the Morizo Edition, which was the top model, it was like $50,000, rear seat delete. That one is gone for 2024. They only made like 200 of them anyway, so you probably weren't gonna get one of those. The Circuit Edition is going to be the new top model. Now this one is finished in heavy metal. That color is no longer available on the Circuit Edition for 2024, which is fine. I think it looks good in heavy metal, but the colors for 2024 are Ice Cap, which is white, or you can get Blue Flame, which is awesome. It was originally offered on the Corolla hatchback when that first got introduced in like 2019, but it looks amazing on the GR model. So I'm really happy that they did that. A little bit disappointed that they only offer it on the Circuit Edition, so you can't get it on one of the more affordable ones. So you do have some really interesting touches here. You can see that it says GR4. That's the name of the all-wheel drive system right there on the intercooler. You've got your little GR badge here. You've got your vented grille all over the place. Now the Circuit Edition is going to have this bulged hood with vents. You're not going to get that on the Circuit or Premium models. So that's the other big change, is that there's a new premium trim level. You used to be able to get a lot more options on the base core model, but now they've split that up into a different trim level. So you have core, premium, and then Circuit Edition. You still are going to get 18-inch wheels on the 2024 model. These are actually forged Enki wheels. You're going to get forged BBS wheels instead. Actually, I'm not sure if these are forged wheels, but the BBSs certainly are. Honestly, they look the same, the Enkis and the BBSs. Maybe they look different if you put them side by side, but from the pictures, I really can't tell a difference. You've got a lot of spokes here. I am gonna say that these might be a little bit difficult to clean when they get dirty with brake dust, so just something to consider when you're buying one of these. You do also get Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires, plenty of grip. Now, we do have our little vent here with another GR logo. I think that looks really cool. Black mirrors. We've got GR4 on this nice fender lining right here, just really chiseled looks. Really cool here. We've got, just like the Integra Type S, this wide body where it kind of sticks on the door, which is really cool. The Circuit Edition is going to get you this carbon, forged carbon roof. Let me see if I can get you some more detail on that. It's a really neat look. It's not just like the normal carbon fiber weave. So that is going to reduce weight up top a little bit here on the Circuit Edition. If you're really aiming for the most performance, you also get this black spoiler here at the back. And then all GR Corollas are going to have the 3 exhaust pipes, one for each cylinder here at the back. Now that we're done checking out the exterior, let's go ahead and take a peek inside the GR Corolla. Once again, this is the Circuit Edition. You get a little plaque here letting you know that this is a Circuit Edition. There were only 1,500 units of this car produced for the 2023 model year. So you know that your GR Corolla is a little bit more special than some others, unless of course somebody next to you has a Morizo Edition, which they only made like 200 of. You do get nicer seats here on the Circuit Edition. They have this nice suede here in the middle. You can see the little red dots underneath and the perforation. Leather on the outside though, which is quite nice. These are heated seats as well. Really comfy, nicely bolstered. Not only do they look great, they are really comfy. They are manually adjustable. They didn't want to add a lot of weight here to put in power seats. I'm really curious to see, Lexus actually teased an LBX, which is like this little crossover thing, and it has this whole drivetrain. I'm really curious to see if they put that into production and if they bring it into the US, because the interior of this is not the most premium. Like, I think that the Civic Type R has a nicer interior. I think that the Elantra N, while the materials are pretty similar in an Elantra N, I just think it looks better than this. This does have your kind of basic Corolla vibe to it. Now, interestingly, Toyota did show off a refreshed GR Yaris, which is related to this car. It has a very different dash than this. I'm curious to see if for the 2025 model year, if they bring those changes to the GR Corolla or not. So that would be interesting. We do have our push button start with our little GR badge. So let me go ahead and start it up. You can see that the GR screen, we get a little special start up there, which is quite nice. Now, the technology in this is not like overwhelmingly nice. It's just fine. Like, it's pretty much the same as what you're gonna get in a normal Corolla. So we've got the 8-inch Toyota infotainment system. It works really well. It has really good voice command. It has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. It's just a very, very small screen. And I'm a little bit mad that they got rid of all of the buttons around it. You used to have button, like shortcut buttons for map, home, phone, all of that. They got rid of that. It's all on the screen now, but they didn't change the bezel size, so it does look like there's quite a lot of bezel around this. They just kept the volume knob, but they did not keep the tuning knob. I just wish they would have kept a little bit more buttons and knobs here, but the system works just fine. You throw it into reverse, you get a basic camera with trajectory lines, but they aren't like the moving trajectory lines. We do have automatic climate control, single zone though, nothing too special there. And because we have the Circuit Edition, we've got some of the nicer features. We have a wireless charging tray down here, and we do have heated seats on both of the seats. Now, the gauge cluster is digital, which is quite nice. It's a really nice, clear, concise set of gauges too. You can see we've got our big tachometer as I bring it into focus there. Now, you can customize what's on the left and what's on the right here. It's a little bit like hard to do on the fly, but what Toyota does is they give you 3 different presets here. So if I scroll over to the right using the little knob here on the steering wheel, you can see that this one is like my fun driving mode. So I have the gears here in the middle. You can't tell because I'm not moving, but if I move the car forward a little bit, you'll see that number 1 shows up because I'm in first gear. You can't really tell what gear you're in when you're not moving. Let me go ahead and move it back into position. You know, when you clutch out all the way, that's when it's going to tell you. I've got my boost gauge here. I've got my all-wheel drive system telling me where the power is coming. And then when I'm doing just normal driving, I have my fuel economy, my trip information, stuff like that. There is a little drive mode selector down here that you can use to change this. So eco and normal modes are going to be the same. Sport mode is going to give you this big tachometer where you can see the red line, which is a whopping 7,000 RPM, is way more pronounced. I love using this when I'm driving spiritedly. It really just gives you a great view of your shifting, making it super easy to do. And then in terms of safety tech, they don't cheap out just because this is a performance car. You still get lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, all of that good stuff that you normally get in a Corolla. You get the 8-speaker JBL audio system as part of the Circuit Edition. That's not standard. And we do have our awesome little selector here. This is going to control the all-wheel drive system. I'll talk a little bit more about how this works when we get out on the road. So as we saw from the front seat, the GR Corolla has some decent tech. It's definitely not the best in the segment. And now we're going to talk about the practicality, which again is not the best in the segment. The Honda Civic is bigger and more practical than this. Even though the Civic Type R only has 4 seats, you do get a lot more legroom in that back seat, and you do get a lot more trunk space as well. So sitting here in the back seat, you get just under 30 inches of legroom. I'm not very tall, but I have enough legroom here. I do have a little armrest as well with some basic cup holders, but that's pretty much it. You get a little USB port right here, USB-C, and a 12-volt outlet, but you don't even get like a locking center console here. They deleted that. It's just this big open lid, you know, for weight reduction purposes, I suppose. And you do get some cup holders here on the door, no air vents, nothing else special like that here in the back seat. And then here in the trunk, it's a similar story. The Corolla hatchback is not a very large hatchback, even compared to some of its competitors. You get about 17.8 cubic feet of space back here. You can see that the floor is very high. So the amount of space you have back here is not great. You can fold the seats down, obviously, because this is a hatchback, so you get a lot more space, but the Honda Civic is a lot bigger. I think even the Elantra N, which is a sedan, is also a little bit more practical. So definitely not the biggest that you can get here. And that's more or less a problem with the Corolla hatch in general. It is not specific to the GR Corolla. All right, so I'm finally getting to spend some reasonable time in the GR Corolla. The first time that I got to drive this car, I only got to drive it on a racetrack. Now, I do not have access to a racetrack this week, so if you want to see how I enjoyed this car on the racetrack, go ahead and watch my first drive review, also on the CarBuzz channel. But here we're just going to be focusing on how the GR Corolla performs as a street car, and I loved this car on the track, especially the crazy Marizo edition, but I almost think it's even better on a road because they really have done a nice job balancing this car and making it feel special out on the road. And this is probably the highest praise that I can give this car. This is the closest thing that I have driven to my Fiesta ST that I used to own since that car went out of production. Nothing else that has been sold since has given me the fizz that this GR Corolla does. And the Acura Integra Type S and the Honda Civic Type R and the Hyundai Elantra N are all really good cars, but there's something about this that just feels a little bit more special even than those cars, which are really good. It all starts with the powertrain and the drivetrain because it is motorsports derived. For better or for worse, it feels like a motorsports powertrain. You have a 1.6 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder that is smaller both in terms of displacement and cylinder count than a regular Corolla. Even a Corolla hybrid has a bigger engine than this, but you get 300 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque because this little 3-pot is running more than 25 PSI of boost. They got this drivetrain from a rally car, and boy oh boy, oh, it feels like a rally car engine. It's got some decent turbo lag. You really want to rev it out. This little 3-pot actually revs to 7,000 RPM. That's higher than most 4-cylinders will rev. This is not one of those 2.0T 4-cylinder engines that has 258 pound-feet of torque and it's all down at like 2,000 RPM. No, this little guy likes to be revved out. Now, all of that power goes out through a 6-speed manual transmission. I really love the throws here. You might not. I do want to say that the throws from this 6-speed, it's a pretty long shifter. Again, reminds me a lot of my Fiesta ST. So you might want to do some kind of short throw shift. It doesn't quite have that amazing ergonomic feel that a Civic Type R or an Acura Integra Type S has, because just a little bit of a better seating position, shorter gear knob, and just that amazing gear change. So it's not quite on the level of that good, but I don't mind a longer throw as long as the actual throws themselves are pretty nice. And they definitely are. Good pedal placement for heel towing as well. We also have the little IMT button that I can go ahead and push if I want to get auto rev matching. It's definitely not the most aggressive auto rev matching. I can do it a little bit better by myself with the heel towing, but it's there in case you're not very practiced at that. But trust me, you buy this car, drive it for a couple months, you're going to become a heel toe master in no time. And because it is a pretty small displacement engine and you've got a manual transmission, this car is pretty light. It only weighs like, I think it's like 3,600 pounds. It's super light for being an all-wheel drive car. I think it's actually lighter than the front-wheel drive Civic Type R. But it's not like a car that's going to pin you back in your seat with acceleration, just like my Fiesta ST. And I like that. I don't need a car that's like overwhelming in terms of power. I want a car that just performs well. So let me go ahead and put it into its sport mode on the drive mode selector. I've got a little bit of a straight road here, so I can see how it gets off the line. It's a little bit hard to launch an all-wheel drive car, especially a manual transmission one. Let's just give it some revs, drop the clutch. There we go. Drama-free launch. I actually did a pretty good job there. Sometimes it just kind of bogs down. It feels like you have a lot of turbo lag, like you didn't get the launch quite right. I actually did it decently well there. If you are really willing to kind of beat up on your clutch and your tires and your all-wheel drive system, you should get from 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds. There's definitely quicker cars that you can buy than this, but this car is really not about the straight line speed. It's all about the fun. Now, I mentioned that the power in this car is going out through an all-wheel drive system, but it is not a normal four-wheel drive system. So this is the GR4 system. Again, rally inspired. There are a bunch of different ways that I can set it using this little GR4 knob. I've been driving in 60-40 mode. So that means 60% of the power is going to the front wheels, 40% is going to the rear wheels. Perfect for if it's rainy or wet or cold. Really kind of just drives like a front biased all-wheel drive, like an Audi or a Volkswagen Golf R, something like that. If you want to have a little bit more fun, you can go ahead and twist this little knob to the right. Now, 30% of the power is going to the front and a whopping 70% is going to the rear. I call this drifto mode because when I drove it on the track, I was able to slide the ever-living Jesus out of it. Here we go. You can just kick the back out, but you have the 30% going to the front, so you can just feed the throttle and it kind of pulls you out. It never feels scary. It's like driving a rear-wheel drive car, but you just have that little bit of assist to help you out. Oh, it's so fun. You can really feel that the front end just lightens up when it has half the amount of the power going to the front wheels, 30% instead of a whopping 60%. So the steering just gets a little bit light. The whole front end just gets a little bit light. And you can really feel the rear end feeling way more willing to rotate when you're in the 30-70 mode. There aren't many cars that could transform mid-drive just with a flick of a switch, like nothing else, just electrical, boom, now you have a rear biased car. There's a very few other vehicles that can pull off the transformation that this GR Corolla can do. And then believe it or not, the 70% rear drive mode is not the track mode. If you want to put it in track mode, you just push the little controller. Now it's going to distribute the power evenly, 50-50. Toyota tried all of the different ways to send power, and believe it or not, 50-50, a perfect distribution of the power, is the fastest way to get around a racetrack. So now we've got just perfect balance, real easy to feed the power here. We're going to take a corner at a good speed. See how it does. Oh yeah. Little bit more weight from the front end because we've got a little bit more power going to it, but I no longer feel the back end wanting to step out. It's more balanced, it's quicker. It's a little bit more fun to go around a corner sideways, but this is definitely the quickest way that you're going to be getting around a track. Oh my gosh, the Pilot Super Sport tires just gripping like crazy. This is one of the most fun cars you can buy. It's so great. I love it. Any complaints? I would say that the 3-cylinder engine definitely doesn't make the most special noise. I'd say the Integra and the Elantra and both sound better than this. One's cheaper, one's a little bit more expensive. I'd say maybe it's about equal with the Civic Type R because that doesn't have the special exhaust that the Integra gets. But wow, what an experience. And the one thing I want to say is I said that this is a motorsports powertrain, both for good and for bad. When you're trying to have fun, like I'm doing on video right now, it is excellent. Where it's not so good, let me go ahead and take it out of sport. I'm actually going to go into eco. put it back into 60/40 mode. It's not the most refined engine. It makes, so like I'm in 4th gear, let's just say I need to make a pass right now. You get a lot of buzzing. There's not a ton of sound insulation. This is not like a luxury, comfortable car, despite the price tag being pretty high for a Corolla. So you have to be willing to make a little bit of a sacrifice in terms of refinement of the engine. Like, it's definitely not as smooth as a 4-cylinder when you're just kind of cruising along. It does quiet down a little bit on the highway. It's not like super loud for a 3-cylinder. It does have plenty of power as well. The suspension is decently firm. I live in Florida where the roads aren't really like too terrible. When you go over a bump, you really feel the torsional stiffness of this car, but it is nicely sprung. So when you go over a bump, the rebound doesn't like crash down. So definitely not like a comfortable car. I think the Integra Type S is overall more comfortable. So is the Civic Type R, but it's about on par with the Elantra, and that's also quite a firm car as well. And the 3-cylinder engine is actually quite efficient too. You're going to get 21 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, 24 combined. That's really not all that bad. And I should mention while I'm driving it that there are some pretty small changes for 2024 in terms of how this car is going to drive. There's some chassis tweaks. They changed the front aero duct a little bit. They changed some of the mounting bolts for the steering, the suspension, the battery, and they put some aluminum sheets on both the front and rear bumpers. It's to help out with aero. You can't see any of this. I actually got to see a 2024 GR Corolla in that amazing blue color that they're going to do, and you visually can't tell. Even like the different wheels for the Circuit Edition, they look pretty much the same to me. Maybe if I saw them side by side, I would notice more of a difference, but if you can get a 2023 for cheaper than a 2024, I'd go ahead and maybe do that. If you really want the blue flare, I really want the blue paint job. I think it looks fantastic, but I don't know if the changes that they've made for 2024 would really like get me to wait if I could get a 2023 at sticker. But again, that might be difficult. So that wraps up our time with the Toyota GR Corolla. I'm going to go over pricing for the 2024 model, even though we drove a 2023 in this video, because by the time you watch this video, there probably aren't going to be many 2023s left, and the 2024s are probably going to be arriving at dealerships. So that base core model that I talked to you about, that's going to start at $36,100. Really not bad for all of the performance that you get, but you are going to have to spend about $1,100 if you want to get the front and rear Torsen locking differentials. I think you're going to want those. Like, you're really not going to want to, for resale purposes, have a GR Corolla that doesn't have those awesome diffs. So I would highly recommend going for that option. That is the only option that you can now get on the core. You cannot get like the premium package with the JBL audio and the suede seats and the heated seats and all of that stuff. You can no longer get that on the core. That requires you to step up to the premium, which starts at just under $40,000. It's $39,920. And honestly, by the time you add the differentials to the core, I think you're better off just going for the premium. You get the JBL audio, you get the nicer seats on the inside. The premium is probably the one that I would go for. As for the Circuit, it's $44,740. You get the bulged hood, you get the carbon fiber roof, you get the BBS wheels. Do I think it's worth it? Personally, not. It is going to be really rare. I think they're only making 1,500 per year, so they made 1,500 in 2023. I think they're only going to make about 1,500 for 2024 as well. So you will have that rarity when you go to resell it, but I don't know, to spend about $5,000 more to get that stuff, personally, I think you're going to be just fine with the premium. Now, here's how that stacks up against other cars in this segment. I think that the three big competitors that you got are the Civic Type R and the Integra Type S, which is a lot more money, and then you have the Elantra N from Hyundai, which is a little bit less expensive. Now, all of those are front-wheel drive. None of those offer all-wheel drive like this GR Corolla does. Now, I'm interested to see if any of the changes from the Yaris are going to make their way into this car. I'm curious if we're going to get that different dash that the Yaris has. I'm interested to see if Toyota offers an 8-speed dual clutch on this car. I think that's going to make it a little bit more widely appealing to people that don't want to drive a stick shift. But as it sits, this package right here, I think it's probably my favorite out of all of them. I think the Integra is more livable, so is the Civic as well, but the Civic is like $46,000 if you can get it without a markup. The Hyundai Elantra N is really great too if you're just looking for the best bang for your buck. It drives really well. It also sounds better than the GR Corolla. It would be a really hard decision for me, but I do think that this speaks to me a little bit more than some of those other cars. The unfortunate part is, even a year after this has been on sale, I don't know if you can get one at sticker price. You're gonna have to shop at a bunch of different Toyota dealerships to see who will give you the best price. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at the GR Corolla. For more videos like it, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and I'll see you next time.